Hello, well in today's video we're going to have a look at part 1 of the C2 proficiency reading test. Actually it's a little bit different to the new version of the exam, but it's very similar. The old version, well, you can have a look at the instructions here. It says in part 1 of the CPE, Cambridge Proficiency in English reading test, you read 3 unrelated texts from a range of sources, each with 6 gaps. You must choose one word or phrase from a set of 4 to fill each gap. You should complete this activity in 20 minutes. Well, that's kind of similar to what the new version of the exam is. Basically, part 1 in the new version is a slightly longer text with 8 gaps, but it's the same. You have 4 options for each gap. And of course, this is C2 level, so I mean, you're going to get an idea of how good you are, how prepared you are for the exam, and how well you would do the first part of the exam by looking at this short exercise that we've got here on this website, examenglish.com, which we're on today. So we've got a text here about bristleworms, nice, a hobbyist's guide. So we're going to read this sort of academic text about these aquatic worms. So it says, bristleworms, a hobbyist's guide. Let's have a look. Historically, bristleworms have had a bad reputation among saltwater aquarium aficionados. These marine worms usually enter the hobbyist's aquarium by a ride on a piece of coral. So they enter by a ride. We've got a verb missing there. There's a verb that collocates with a ride. So you may have heard this expression, you may not. Let's have a look at the 4 options, see which one you think is best. So attaching a ride, tethering a ride, hitching a ride, lifting a ride. So, attaching, I guess you could say the worm attaches itself to a piece of coral in order to get into an aquarium. No, but we wouldn't say it attaches a ride. Tethering is an interesting one. Tether is what we tend to call a rope that attaches a horse to the post. No, and when we've lost all of our patience, we have this analogy of being at the end of our tether. No, when we're so frustrated that we've got no patience left, but we don't tether a ride. No, and well, I'll tell you the other wrong option. It's lifting a ride. Obviously, people can get confused with that because you get a lift, which would be the same thing as hitching a ride. Hitching, obviously, coming from the sort of like, I don't know what you say in other languages. In Spanish, they say autostop. No, you hold your thumb up like that, hoping that a car will stop and take you to where you want to go. So you hitch a ride. Basically, you get to go where the other person is going. Basically, yeah. So the correct option here is hitching a ride. They hitch a ride. These worms get into the aquariums by hitching a ride on a piece of coral. Okay, so let's continue then. Once established, they become part of the tank's ecosystem. Bristleworms, greatly in size. Well, I think it's always good before you look at the options to think what kind of word could go in that gap. So bristleworms, greatly in size. Let's take a look at the next sentence. The smallest ones are about 1 inch long. The large ones can grow to over 20 inches. Okay, so I think what we're saying here is there's a big variety in size of bristleworm. No, there are small ones and there are big ones. So bristleworms extend greatly in size. That doesn't quite sound right, does it? I mean, they extend, maybe you could, extend, we tend to think about something that is making itself bigger. That's not really what we're saying here. We're saying that there are lots of different kinds of sizes of bristleworms. I don't think it's extend. Bristleworms range greatly in size, which is the same as vary. So it's to say there's a variation. I think it's going to be range. Reach, again, kind of like they can reach a big size. Yes, they can reach 20 inches long, but again, that's not exactly what we're saying. We're trying to say there's a variation. There's a lot of variation. They stretch, again, the same. They can stretch, they can extend to a certain length. No, it's they range. They range greatly in size. Yes, there's a great variety of sizes of bristleworm. The smallest ones are about 1 inch long, and the large ones can grow to 20 inches. Although being segmented, their bodies are often, and so not usually seen at their greatest extent. So there's a suggestion here that as they are segmented, as their bodies are in segments, you don't normally see the full length of the bristleworm because they are, I guess they're smaller, their segments go into themselves. So let's see if there's something that sort of suggests going back in. Well, the first option looks pretty good. Their bodies are often retracted. So if we think, I think the suggestion that it's segmented would suggest, that the bodies sort of go into themselves. No, the segments fall into one another. So I think it's probably retracted, are often retracted, withdrawn. I suppose they could be withdrawn into a hole, but again, what would that mean about being segmented? Why would they mention the fact that the body is segmented? I think they want to say that the body is retracted into itself. Let's see if there's any other. Shrunk, again. Segments wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that a body can shrink. That just means it reduces its size. So I don't think it's shrunk. Recoiled, an interesting one, confusing one here actually, because recoil, we do talk about snakes and long, elongated animals recoiling. So a snake is coiled up, it's like curled around in a circle, and it will strike at you like that. And then it will recoil. It will go back into its coil. Again, I don't think that's what they're saying here because there's this mention of the segments. I think the segments retract into each other. So I think the option is going to be retracted. Okay, and not seen at their greatest extent. Literature has frequently that bristleworms are harmful, asserting that they eat clams, anemones, and even coral fish. So, I guess the literature has frequently said that bristleworms are bad. No, but it's probably going to be a more technical word. So, how can we say that they argue this? I guess it might be argued. Let's have a look at the options. Literature has frequently persuaded. That doesn't sound right. It sounds like they're trying to persuade or they're trying to convince, but to suggest that they have persuaded people, I don't think that would be the correct option here. Has frequently analysed that bristleworms are harmful. Well, you can't analyse that something is something. You analyse whether it is harmful or not. But no, I don't think that's right. Literature has frequently contended. Well, that is a synonym of to argue a point, particularly an academic point. So literature has frequently contended that bristleworms are harmful. That sounds good. Posed that they are harmful? No. In fact, we're going to see where pose might collocate later. You wouldn't pose an argument. No. Contended. Literature has often contended that bristleworms are harmful, asserting that they eat clams and anemones and even coral fish. However, most enthusiasts now conclude that small bristleworms no threat and are merely scavengers clearing the tank from detritus and carcasses of animals that are already dead. So, enthusiasts now conclude that small bristleworms, they don't They aren't a threat. So what is the collocation? They don't give a threat. What do we say in English? They don't take a threat. I didn't mean to select that one. They take no threat? No, I mean, if you take a threat, you're receiving it, no? You're perhaps accepting it. You pose a threat. That's the correct collocation. Let's have a look at the other options. Bear no threat. No, we do use bear in similar kinds of collocations. You bear a resemblance to something. You bear... You bear... No, but you don't bear a threat. Bear a threat? I don't think so. I don't think so, no. You bear arms. The American Constitution. The right to bear arms. And figuratively speaking, I can't really think of many other collocations. Bear resemblance, bear... I don't know. Tell me if you can think of any others. But no, pose a threat, I'm pretty sure. Contain no threat. Well, something can contain a threat. I guess, though, what we're saying here is that that the bristle worms bring a threat to other animals in the ecosystem. So they pose no threat. No, I think that's the correct answer. Yeah, they pose no threat. Okay, they're merely scavengers, and they clear the tank from detritus and carcasses of animals that are already dead. They're scavengers. They just eat carrion, whatever. Okay. However, larger worms, particularly those of the species known as fireworms, are eaters and can do irreparable damage. So I think we're going to say what kind of eaters they are. So it's going to be some kind of dramatic adjective here, I think. They are maybe insatiable, something like that. They are famished. Well, that just means they're very hungry. I don't know why we would suggest they're very hungry. It doesn't sound right, no. They are unwarranted eaters, like they're not wanted, they're not needed, they're unnecessary, they're not... No, I don't think that sounds right either. Ambitious. They have a lot. I don't think we normally talk about worms having ambitions and aspirations. No, they're voracious eaters. They cannot be filled. They eat constantly and persistently and aggressively. Yeah, they're voracious eaters and can do irreparable damage. These worms are better removed, although this is a challenge in itself, as the worms are nocturnal, sensitive to light, and will go into hiding at the slightest disturbance. Let's check our answers, but yeah, as if we need to. They are all correct. So how did you do? Did you do well? I hope so. Are you ready for the C2 exam? Well, each individual will know, I guess. Goodbye.